Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome once again to the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 124. Well, hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. Very special one with Jimmy Dunn. Make sure you check that one out. Remember, there's going to be episodes every day this week. If you're not following along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I recommend you do that. That's where I'm announcing the upcoming guests. For example, if you're following along, you'll know that tomorrow's guest is Brad Faxon, PGA Tour winner, Ryder Cupper, Fox Golf analyst, and he's also Rory McIlroy's putting coach. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Faxon episode. But today, our guest is J.C. Deacon, head golf coach at the University of Florida. How did he get to Gainesville? Well, grew up in Toronto, then played college golf at UNLV of all places. He was a teammate of Ryan Moore's. He was a semifinalist in the 05 U.S. Amateur, then played a little bit of professional golf, then got back into coaching as an assistant at UNLV, then got his own D1 head coaching job at Florida. Quite the journey. This is a great episode. Hope you enjoy it. Let's not waste any time. Coach Deacon, welcome to the Back of the Range, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Ben. Looking forward to it.
Well, our new reality here is to kind of let the listener know when this episode is recorded because of the reality of the world we live in with the coronavirus. So it's Thursday, March 19th, where I guess this is kind of the first full week since PGA Tour, college golf, everything is basically shut down. What's your day-to-day looking like right now for this week?
It's pretty tough, to be honest. I love to work, and I love my job, as my players know. I love being there from sun up to sundown with them and helping them chase their dreams and see how good we can get our team to be. But that is obviously all changed, and I think there's a lot more important things out there than golf. But golf is our world and my world, and but it's nice. There's some good things that have come out of it. I think all of us who are in the business have to travel a ton between recruiting and competing and all the different places we have to be. And I've got a 2-year-old at home and a 5-year-old, and I'm getting to be a full-time dad from sun up to sundown now. So that's been neat for me to see them on a day-to-day basis, and just get to see what they do all day.
How are you communicating to your players? And obviously we'll get into the, when the decision was made for the NCAA to suspend spring sports, which obviously includes golf. So no conference championships and no national championship, but you obviously have communication with your players.
Yeah.
What are you trying to convey to them as to what they should focus on right now with, they maybe some have access to golf, some don't have access to golf courses. What's kind of your communication to them, just for a mindset perspective?
Well, I think the first thing is that they need to stay on top of their schoolwork. I think that's probably the easiest thing that they could let slip right now. They're still responsible for that and need to do a great job. Everything that we do in our program, we try and get our guys to do it at the highest level, and academics is right at the top of that list. So making sure they get up in the morning and take care of their responsibilities first. And then after that, everyone's situation's kind of different. Most of our guys have gone home. We have a couple international players who are from some countries that are really struggling with the coronavirus right now. So that's been difficult navigating that. But, I think every situation's a little bit different, but we've got a way to check in with every player daily, just to make sure we know where they're at, that they're healthy, that they're eating right, doing all those things. And most importantly, they're staying safe and keeping those around them safe. So it's definitely a new reality and pretty scary in some aspects. But, when it comes to golf and our guys, I just don't ever really have to, hammer them or get on them about practicing. Their goals are so high,
Yeah.
and their dreams are, bigger than mine. And so I don't ever have to worry about them putting in the time or staying on their golf. They do that on their own. It's usually us making sure that they do all the other stuff.
Well, that's good to hear. At some point later on down the line in this episode, I definitely want to talk about when you communicated to your team that their season was over. But before we do that, we have something very serious that we have to talk about. Even, it's right up there with what we're dealing with right now. But you're Canadian. We have to address that. I'm just kidding. So, but no, I want to know. You're a native of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, that ends up playing college golf in Vegas and then coaching at the University of Florida in Gainesville. So that's a little bit of a unique one for this podcast, going from Canada to Vegas to Gainesville. So let's get back to where things started. Tell me a little bit about getting into the game as a player. I know you played professionally in on the Canadian tour. Let's talk a little bit about how you get into the game, where it seems like hockey is the birthright, but you start off with golf.
My older brother Jeff, we were as close as could be growing up. He's 4 years older than me, but we did everything together. And so, as soon as I could walk, he had me playing hockey against him. That was, I was always his competition at home, so he didn't have to do it on his own. But
okay,
we played a ton of hockey from the day, the earliest days I can remember. I had a hockey stick in my hand, and that's what I loved. I still am the most passionate fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and hockey's definitely the closest sport to my heart for sure. But my brother and my dad wanted to pick up golf, and I think I was about 5. And I was a right-handed hockey player early on. So the golf swing just, it's different than a slap shot, but there's some similarities there. I think he used some of the same power structure. And it was easy for me for whatever reason. And I remember my dad took me up to this little par 3 course, and I made a birdie on the 15th hole. I think I scuzzed a driver down there that rolled up there to 2 feet. And my brother, being the competitive guy that he was, made me putt it. He wouldn't give it to me, but I made the birdie putt. And I just, that moment, I fell in love with the game, and was playing it, at all times in the summer. And then in the winter, we'd, go to the golf dome and do what we could to keep the game sharp. And then it was probably about 14 or 15 years old. I was playing at a pretty high level of hockey in Canada, and had to kind of pick between major junior A hockey and or going down south and doing something real with golf. And I always I love playing the games in hockey. I love that part of it, but I practice and what went into being great in hockey, I didn't love that as much as golf. I could spend 24/7 at a golf course in the summer, and I loved every second of it. So that was how I made my decision. And my parents were incredible and made some sacrifices for me to get down south. And thank God I was playing in the AJGA polo event it was actually at Disney World at the time. And I hit a nice drive. I can't remember the hole, but it's a dog leg right on that Magnolia course, and walked around the corner, and there was Coach Knight standing there. And I think he said, "Holy smokes, how'd you get it way down here?" And that's how we were introduced, and ended up playing for him. And he's been like a second dad to me ever since. So I was really lucky.
And you're talking about Dwayne Knight, who I believe is going into his 33rd or 34th. This is like his 30th, at least over 30 years as the head coach of the UNLV men's golf team. So he's been there forever. You played there from 01 to 05. Gosh, there has to be a good culture shock story from you getting from Toronto to Vegas. I still, whenever I hear about anyone going to school at UNLV, or any school in Nevada where, gambling's legal and it just seems like there's no rules. And now you got to go to college, and then you got to be actually an athlete and have to do all those things. What's it like stepping onto campus as like an 18, 19-year-old in Vegas?
Yeah. Well, my mom, I went through the recruiting process, and had some different visits and saw some really neat places. And there was just, it was Coach Knight that was he was the separator for me. I met him, and he was intense, and he saw something in me, and he believed in me. He wanted me to be there. And there was something about him that drew me to that program. And so I asked my mom and dad, I said, this is where I want to go and where I want to chase my dream at. And my mom was not crazy about it. I'm not going to lie. She didn't think that was the best idea, but she said, I'll make you a deal. If you get your college degree and you stay 4 years and you do a good job in school, I'll let you go there. So I told Coach Knight that was the deal.
That's an interesting. I mean, not to steal a line from Dodgeball, but that's a bold strategy. Let's see if it works out. I mean,
yes. Well, my mom knows we're very, very close, and she knows I wouldn't let her down. So if I looked her in the eye and gave her my word, she knew I'd do it. So that was the deal, and she let me go, and it was probably the best decision I ever made in my life up to that point, because there's no way that I would be sitting in the position I'm in right now without Coach Knight in my life. He's just been so amazing and such a great influence, and I've got everything to thank him for.
So, and that obviously, I'm assuming, led you into your coaching career, having that such a great relationship with your college coach. But before you got into coaching, you played professionally. I mean, and we're definitely not going to skip over 2005. I guess definitely have to talk about the fact that you're a semifinalist at the U.S. Am at Marion in 2005. So I definitely want to hit on that. But you played. In fact, we're going to hit on that right now. So you played professionally, but before you did that, you were at the U.S. Amateur. You have this incredible run where you beat Nathan Smith in I believe the round of 32. Nathan Smith, 4-time U.S. Mid-Amateur champion. You beat George Zeringer the next round of 16. Or let's see, that's the quarters you beat him in. So it's Nathan Smith in the round of 16, then Zeringer in the quarterfinals. He's a Mid-Am champion. Both were Walker Cuppers. Tell me about that run you made in the 2005 U.S. Am at Marion.
It was crazy how it all happened. I hadn't really played that well my final year in college. Nothing special at all. Was actually battling to even stay in the lineup half the time. Our team was really, really good. We had a great freshman from Pennsylvania named Jared Texter, who came in right away and played some great golf. And Ryan Moore was on the team, and Andre Gonzalez and Travis Wisman. There was a ton of really good players, and I had my work cut out just to be in the lineup. And then that summer was okay. Saw some bright spots. Obviously qualified for the U.S. Am, which is really difficult to do. So I was playing some okay golf, and really luckily, the week prior at the Canadian Am, I got paired in the 2-stroke play rounds with a Canadian legend named Doug Roxborough. And Doug was a mentor of mine and just a great man. I think he's won like every Canadian Am. I don't know, he's got 10 of them or something crazy. I should know that, but I don't. But anyways, Doug's a great guy, someone I truly respect. We play the 2-stroke play rounds together, and he pulled me aside after and just said, man, I really like what I'm seeing with your game. I like what you're doing. Just keep on this track. And it just hearing that from him,
Huge.
Someone who I respected so much, it meant everything to me. It really did. And I actually lost the first round of match play in the Canadian Am that week. I lost in a playoff, I think, on the 3rd extra hole, but I played good. And so I was going to Marion feeling pretty good. And the first round was at I think it was Philly Country Club.
Philly Country Club. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I played terrible. I can't remember what I shot, 76 or 77. And I had to go and face Marion the next day, and the stroke average was super high. And so the odds were stacked up against me, but dug deep, and I played one of the best rounds of my life. I still remember a bunch of the shots. I think I was 2 under through 15 holes, just played fantastic golf. I bogeyed 2 of my last 3, but shot even par. And that got me in a playoff. It was a crazy playoff, like a 13 for 9 or 13 for 10 playoff. And I remember I had to make a 4-footer on that little par 3 they have, I think number 14.
Is that the one that Mickelson airmailed in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had a 4-footer downhill right to left for par to stay in the playoff, and I made it, and then made an easy par up on 15, and or 14. I guess that was 13 is the par 3. 14 I made an easy par on, and I was in. So I made the match play, and the first round of the match play, I got paired against one of my best friends, Andrew Parr, who's he's helps Texas A&M with some of their coaching. He actually just got a assistant coaching job with Golf Canada right now, but played at Texas A&M. Great player, one of my best friends, and we played in the first round, and I was lucky enough to beat him. And then Nathan in round of 32, and then it was the round of 16 that I played Mr. Zaringer, because I remember he was a huge name to me. Obviously I was a big follower of Tiger and amateur golf, and
Sure.
He was Mr. USGA at the time, all the Walker Cups he'd played in and stuff. And so I was lucky enough to get by him. I remember I putted really well against George. I made a bunch of really good putts, probably about maybe a 12 footer for par on 17, and then a 8 or 10 footer for par on 18. And I needed both of those to beat him one up. So that was great. And then the round of the quarterfinals, I got paired against my current assistant coach.
I know, Mark Leon.
Mark Leon. Yeah. So it was like the weirdest week ever that I kept playing all these guys that I knew and was close to. And Mark and I got off to a rough start. We didn't play that great through the first 6 or 7 holes, but the match really heated up around the turn, and we played some great golf coming in, and it was super intense. And I hit one of the best bunker shots I've ever hit in my entire life on the 17th hole. I think I was 1 up, or I might have been 2 up, but I hit a bunker shot to a foot that kind of iced the match. So I was lucky to get by Marco, who is a great player. And then in the semifinals, I had, so many family and friends down there. We stayed with the Van Arkels that week, a great family and up by Marion, and they hosted all of us, and it turned into a huge party, and just absolutely one of the most memorable weeks of my life. And then the semifinals, a crazy story on its own. It was a battle back and forth with Dylan Doherty, and I was 1 up with 2 to go. And the 17th hole at Marion's just an absolute monster of a par 3. And I hit a great shot down there. I think I hit a 2-iron to, I don't know, it's probably 20 feet from the flag, just on the front left fringe. And Dylan pull hooked it way up into the long rough. We couldn't even see his ball. I mean, he was toast. And I remember walking off the 17th tee after watching where Dylan hit it. And
oh no, I know what's coming.
My ball was
sitting
in a great spot. You know it's coming. I said, I'm going to be playing in the Masters.
Oh, no, I knew it.
100% the thought went through my mind. What a donkey I was. But sure enough, the golf god struck, and Dylan took this huge swing, full swing flop. I'll never forget it. Landed in the rough, bounced out of the rough, trickled down, and like a perfectly paced putt, trickled over the front edge of the hole and went in for birdie. I can't even explain it, how unimaginable this shot that he holed was from this rough on a downhill lie and the whole thing. So he won that hole. I missed my 25 footer, so we went to 18 tied, and then he actually ended up hitting the NBC TV tower and got a drop and hit it from like 60 yards, and one bounced off the flag down to a foot and made par, and I lost. I missed like a 10 footer. So it was the most crazy I went from thinking I'm going to the Masters to losing in literally 15 minutes and not really knowing what happened. So it was, at this point in my life, I'm a long way removed from it. It's one of the best memories I have, because my sister and my brother and mom and dad were there, and we had a blast. But it would have been nice to play in the Masters, but it wasn't meant to be.
That's I mean, I've heard of bad beats, but that's pretty tough. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that one. So does your team know about that week? And I'm sure you've had numerous different players throughout the years that you've been at the University of Florida, but does your team know that story, and have you used that as a kind of a coaching tool? Because I mean, if you want to talk about staying in the present, I mean, that's it right there.
Right. I don't talk about it very often, to be honest. I think it might have come up here or there. I think probably more with the disappointment part of it and dealing with what's next after something really disappointing like that happens. Because it was a crazy story, and it was absolutely insane what happened. And so I've been through, golf is going to break your heart at some point along the line. It's going to break your heart. And I happen to be a mentor for a bunch of guys that are trying to play at the highest level, and they get their heart broken all the time. So the story does come in handy. And, I remember those thoughts and feelings, and in the moment, I know for a lot of these guys, and certainly for me at that age, you think it's the end of the world, but you get older and you have a couple little girls and a family, and you realize, yes, golf's extremely important, but at the same time, there's some bigger and better things ahead in life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, before we talk about your, I want to ask you a couple of questions about playing professionally on the Canadian Tour, but before we jump out of your amateur days, I have to ask about Ryan Moore. You spent your college career with him, and the reason I'm asking is he had this absolutely incredible amateur season. Wins, I believe, the Western Am, the USAM, the USAM Pub Links, all in the same year.
He also won that year the World Am, I believe the Sahali Players Am, the Pacific Northwest Am. He won everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was, gosh, what is this? 2004, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So, I guess the question I'm asking is, you're seeing this guy in practice all the time. You're playing in college tournaments. Did you get any sort of a sense and that he was just the absolute world beater he was that year, or was it just, hey, that's Ryan, he's on the team. Yeah, he's our number one player, but did you get a sense that he was going to be the best guy, just the best amateur in the country that year?
I knew it from the first second I met him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about the first time you met Ryan Moore.
Ryan and I were roommates. We moved in together our freshman year at the Tonopah dorm at UNLV, and he just has a presence about him. His self-confidence and self-belief is just probably second to none that I've ever seen. And the first time I shook hands with him, the guy just had a aura around him and a belief in himself, and he was that good from our first day of school. I'm surprised when I think back that he was a good junior player. I think he was probably a first team All-American in the AJGA, but he wasn't as dominant. And I mean, from the first day of class at UNLV, this guy was unbelievable. He drove it so straight. He could curve it both ways. His irons were absolutely lasers, and his short game was just ridiculous. He could get it up and down from anywhere, and he could putt like nobody's business. And I think Coach Knight made him even better around the greens, and he slowly turned into a monster. And even our first year, he was shooting 63, 64, 65 and qualifying all the time at some pretty good golf courses out in Vegas. So we knew he was really good. He was the leader of our team right away as a freshman, and then he just kept getting better and better and better. And then that year, I think when he won, I literally think he went undefeated in like 9 or 10 tournaments in a row. It was crazy what he did. None of us on our team were surprised. It was just like, yep, that, he hits it dead straight. His irons are unbelievable. He's got one of the best short games in the world, and he's a great putter. And he believes he's one of the best players in the world too. So there was no weakness, and he just superstar. Unbelievable how good he was.
When you have a guy on your team that is your number one, and you have your qualifying sessions or qualifying tournaments, and it's basically you're playing for 4 spots instead of 5.
Yep.
How is that relationship? What was your relationship with a guy that is your number one, and it's pretty much solidified as soon as he steps on? How was he as a teammate? I'm just kind of curious, because that could go either way. You could have a guy that's like on the mountaintop and he's just looking down at everyone, or he could be right there building up the rest of the guys on the team to build up and what's best for the Rebels.
Yeah, I look back from a coach's perspective now, and I wish my relationship in college was better with Ryan. I was so selfish and worried about my game and what I was trying to do. And to be honest, trying to beat him. I was from a smaller town, not that Toronto's small, but small part of the golf world. And
Right.
I used to win a lot when I was a junior golfer, and I didn't get beat very often. And I went to UNLV, and there was this guy who was so much better than me, and not sure I responded probably the best way that I could. I think it probably frustrated me more than it should have pushed me. But it just, you got a reminder on a daily basis of what if we all knew it. I mean, like, this guy was playing on the PGA Tour. You could tell it from the first time you saw him play a round of golf. And so from that perspective, it was great. You knew that you were stacking yourself up against what a tour player looked like. And but Ryan was great. He was such a great leader. We had some really good teams, and he always brought it. And whether it was in qualifying or a putting contest or a chipping contest, he's so competitive. Or ping pong, playing basketball, whatever it was, he wanted to beat you. And I think a lot of those things I see in Ricky Castillo now playing for us. He's just a uber competitor, and that's such a great thing for a golf team. And I learned a lot from Ryan, for sure. And we're still good buddies now. And he's become a big Vegas Golden Knights fan. So we probably talk more about hockey than we do about golf. But I mean, what a career he's had. Just such a consistent, phenomenal player. And I'm really proud of him and happy for him. He's become a great dad and has an awesome family out there in Vegas. So, I look back on our college days as, they were some of the best of my life, and we knew we were playing with someone special. That's for sure when it comes to Ryan.
That's awesome. Can you imagine if you were at UNLV when Vegas had a hockey team?
I know.
You would be a mess, wouldn't you?
I think it would all happen the way it was meant to be, because even when I was an assistant coach, if there was a hockey team when I would have been distracted all the time. So spending too much time at that T-Mobile Arena watching them. So I'm glad actually the way it all worked out.
So so I want to ask about, being an assistant at UNLV under Coach Knight. How did that happen? Because you played professionally in the Canadian Tour, and played, I guess, 3 years or so on the Canadian Tour. Was there a time when you were like, okay, this just isn't going to be a viable long-term future for me, or did something else come along? And I guess it's coaching. Kind of walk me through how coaching became a part of your life, because it can happen in all sorts of different ways. And was it even on your radar at the time?
To answer that question, I had never one day in my life up until that point thought of being a coach. I was always the player, and coaches were supposed to help me. I never, ever saw myself in that role. Okay. And I guess it all kind of started in 2010. I made it through the first stage of Q school, played pretty solid. And then I was at second stage at Deerwood in Texas, and my brother was down there caddying for me. And we were right on the cut line and kind of knew had to make something happen. And I remember I hit one of the best 6 irons of my life on number 17 as par 3 there, and made the putt, and then hit a bad drive on 18 and had to lay it up just short of the green, and the pin was all the way in the back, and I hit an unbelievable pitch to like 2 feet and from 45 yards, and tapped in for par. So I finished birdie par when I thought I was on the number, and we thought we were good. And some guys played well that day, and I ended up missing second stage by a shot. So back then, if you made it to finals, you had a chance at the PGA Tour, and that was the whole goal at that point. And that just kind of took the wind out of my golf sails a little bit. I was just, I don't know, it's kind of a sign that maybe this wasn't for me. And
right.
So that winter, I was still planning to go and play golf and maybe chase some web.com tour Mondays, Corn Ferry now. But, I was in Toronto in February, and I was helping out one of my buddies, Kevin Cooper. He's a broker, and I was helping him trying to make a little bit of money on the side. And I was walking in the subway in Toronto, and Coach Knight called me, and like, what the heck is he calling me for? He's supposed to be in Hawaii,
right,
in the John Burns. So I pick it up. Hey, coach, what's going on? And he said, I'm at the Burns in Hawaii, and I always have good memories of you and I here, but I got something more important to call you about. And I said, well, shoot, what's going on? Is everything okay? And he said, yeah. Darren Dorsey, who was his assistant at the time, had made a decision to go back to being a lawyer, to get back into the law industry. And he said, I think you'd be a great assistant coach. Do you want to come and do it for me? And I remember I said, Coach, are you sure? I've never thought of coaching in my life. He said, well, why don't, it's February. You only got a couple months left in the year. Why don't you come and try it, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll go from there. So I thought about it for the weekend, and I, my bank account was extremely empty at the time. I hadn't made much money playing golf, and it was, a way to make some money and stay in the game. I thought, shoot, I can still practice and play against the guys. This is perfect. So said yes and got to the border, and I got turned down by the border agent. I'll never forget it. And he said, I can let you go to into the States because you have a visa. I think I was on a P1 or whatever it is, a professional golfer's on. I can't remember at the time. So I could go, but he said, you can't take that job. We need this and this and this information. So I called coach, and he was running all over campus, and Chris Kane from the PGM department really helped us get some stuff together. And we put the whole package together. I went back the next day, thinking, geez, this position I was so excited about is on the line. And lucky enough, I got a great agent, and they understood the job a little bit better and sent me on my way. So I drove all the way from Toronto to Las Vegas, and literally probably 4 days into the job, I just fell in love with it, loved it. And I remembered how awesome college golf is, what a great experience it is to be on a team, to have guys like that. And then all of a sudden I got to, kind of help them and be a leader for them. And that was what an amazing gift and opportunity that is to get. And Coach Knight I don't even know how to describe him on something like this. He's the salt of the earth. He is the most wonderful human being you could ever imagine. He's morals and the way he does things are perfect. He's kind-hearted, and he works hard, and he does things the right way. And I just realized, man, I need to be around someone like this, whether, I'm going to get into coaching or not. This is a great person to follow and to be with. And he taught me so much, and kind of, just put me on my way. And he gave me a lot of leeway to run some things in recruiting and run our foundation. And he really trusted me. And we got a big break with Derek Castillo committing to us back in the day at UNLV. And he kind of opened the door to California for us. And then we got John Oda and Shintaro Bond and some of these great players. And my career just kind of took off from there, thanks to Coach Knight's trust. And then I guess 3.5 years later, I got a chance to interview at Florida, and here we are.
So let me ask you this. You start as an assistant. What were some of the things that you had to learn quickly? Because it's one thing to be, hey, I get to practice, I'm around the guys, and, I kind of feel like I'm the 6th or 7th year senior. I'm the Van Wilder of the golf program, but, obviously it's a job. So what were the things that you had to learn pretty quickly from Coach Knight on, okay, this, you can make this a career if you do, X, Y, and Z.
So that's why he was so great. He kind of tossed it all in my lap and said, I want you to figure this out. And he said, the one thing you cannot mess with is our foundation. So he said, if anything comes up with the Rebel Golf Foundation, you make sure it's done. You make sure it's done on time, and you keep our members happy. So he laid the law down about that. So but it was such a gift that he did that for me looking back, because I got to meet everyone in the city. I mean, the people that Coach Knight has got involved with the Rebel Golf Foundation and that are on his board are some of the most unbelievable and influential people in that city. And so I got to meet all them, develop a relationship, learn from them how they do their job well, what advice they had for me. So that was the game changer for me, was being around those people and getting that type of advice. And Dan Albrechts was a lawyer out there who took me under his wing, and Tom Gingoli, who works for Konami Gaming, is still one of my best friends in the world today. He was just instrumental in me maturing and growing up and learning how to lead kids. And so it was so much outside of the golf program that helped me. And that's what makes Vegas such a neat city is everyone is behind UNLV, especially that golf program. Man, there's so many people that it's really important to and pull for it. And it was special to be a part of that again.
But recruiting couldn't have been too hard. All you got to do is bring these kids in, take them to casinos, go to showgirls, and maybe really, that's all you got to do, right?
Well, I think the recruiting the kids to UNLV is super easy. It's making sure mom and dad are okay with
all right. So give me a good story about a mom and dad that you really had to work really hard on. I mean, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what. Once we got Derek Castillo to commit, that was a game changer for us. I think he just added a lot of credibility. He's got a great mom and dad who are both school teachers, and they trusted Coach Knight and I with their son. And Derek was just a really well-liked and popular kid in California golf. And that opened the door. And I mean, you look at John Oda, John's dad, Jay, was, I think, an accountant, if I'm not mistaken, but he's just a amazing, very straightforward, pretty strict guy. Super guy, wonderful dad, but very, very by the book. And we got John to come to UNLV. So that when that happened, and John's one of the nicest, most proper young men you'll ever meet. But I knew once we got him, he was a super player and a good kid, and he wanted to come to Vegas and wasn't afraid of the city. And obviously, you look at John's UNLV career; it was just phenomenal. So that worked out really well, and it's an easy place to sell. You got Southern Highlands, and you got Shadow Creek, and Taylor Montgomery played there. His dad Monty's the director of golf out at Shadow, and there's a great connection between UNLV and there, and it's a great place to go to school. There's no doubt about it, and there's zero surprise that Coach Knight has been able to build the powerhouse that he has.
Yeah. So you spend a handful of years there at Vegas, and then you get your shot to come interview for the head coaching job at the University of Florida, which is where you've been for since what, 2013, 2014 is when you get that job?
Yeah, I can't believe this is my 6th year here now. It's unbelievable.
For someone, and you actually, we're going to talk about John Handrigan, who is your assistant, who's now the head coach at Notre Dame. Had him on the podcast several weeks ago. But what's that interview like when you go sit down to try and get a D1 position? Now, was this your first time interviewing for a D1 job?
Yes, it was. Tim Mickelson, a year or maybe 2 years prior, had some interest in bringing me in and offered me the assistant coach job at ASU to come work with him. And that was a great experience to go through talking with Tim through that. And then JT Higgins at Texas A&M, I still owe him to this day. He got me a really nice raise at UNLV because he came in and gave me a really nice offer and kind of forced Coach Knight's hands to give me a raise that I needed at the time. But so I hadn't officially interviewed, but I had met some great coaches and had some great experience through those two. And then when the Florida job came open, when I first heard that Buddy was retiring, I didn't really think that I had any chance. We had some good teams at UNLV, and I was hopeful. It was always, the number one job on my list that I would ever have a chance at. And I made some calls, and I got some great advice. And I remember Chandler Withington, who's he's now the head pro at Hazeltine in Minnesota there. He gave me some unbelievable interviewing advice. He had interviewed at some big golf courses to get the head pro job a couple times, and he learned a lot through that. And Chandler gave me some advice that I'll never forget. And then
give me an example of one of the things he gave you advice on, because
one of the things Chandler asked me to do was I can't remember the name of the company that makes it, but I made, I guess, like a resume picture book, essentially, is what it is. of my time at UNLV, and it had a bunch of pictures from my experiences from day one to everything that I learned about the team and coaching and the Rebel Golf Foundation, and had a little bit about my family in there. And so I wrote up a bunch and put some pictures in there, and that was kind of a big part of my resume. And then Chuck Hazard, who was my best friend in Las Vegas at the time, his wife Tina and I played college golf at UNLV together, and Chuck and I became good buddies. He played baseball at the University of Florida, so
okay,
he had a ton of ties here, and he made a bunch of phone calls for me. And between Chuck and Jim Livengood and a bunch of different people who called, I got my foot in the door, and I was one of 6 coaches to get an interview. And man, I remember I was super nervous coming here, but when I landed, and my direct boss now, Mike Spiegler, who's an associate athletic director here, he took me out to dinner, and we went to Bonefish Grill, and we sat down and started talking about the team and the scholarships and what everything was looking like and what my plan was and what I wanted to do. I was just like, man, I got to get this job. Like, this is where I need to be. I have to do this. I want this so bad. And I got up the next morning and put my suit on. I think that helped. You know, I was a young guy, the youngest one of any 31. I think I was 30 or 31, and youngest of any of the people they were volunteering. So I knew, or interviewing, sorry. So I knew I needed to look good and make sure I was really presentable. I, put on the best suit I had and wore a tie, and tried to look older than I was, I guess.
There you go.
And I met everyone the next day, and I really hit it off with Jeremy Foley. He's in my eyes, he's the greatest athletic director that college sports has ever seen. And he's an amazing human being and has become such a huge piece of my life and mentor for me now. But we hit it off, and he's a competitor like me. And I think I got lucky because Billy Donovan, I think of so many different coaches, Tim Walton, Urban Meyer, so many great coaches, Brian Shelton, Roland Thornquist. These, some you may not have heard of, but these guys were young, kind of unheard of coaches at the time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. You're right. So Donovan was there coaching basketball, and
yes.
So yeah, that does make sense.
So Jeremy,
Urban
Jeremy
Meyer, it makes sense.
Yeah, so Jeremy took a shot on these young, unknown, unheard of guys, and I kind of fit that mold a little bit, and I think it was all meant to be, and super lucky, and it's been the greatest opportunity I've ever been given in my life. I love this job so much.
If UF is listening to this podcast, that's good news for them. So, were you aware of what kind of a UF golf family you were kind of jumping into? Because I know that your alumni for that team are very well involved in the program. And truthfully, I think we spoke about this before we started recording this episode, but of all the universities where I've had guests, whether it's a former player, current coach, or anyone, by far and away, I think the most representatives from any university is the University of Florida. I think we went through the list of over 100 episodes I've done, and I think at least 10 have gone to UF. So I could just go down the list of names and see if you got a story. But before I do that, what was your first kind of introduction to what it meant to be involved in Gators golf?
To be honest, I think when they announced that I was going to be the next coach, there was a lot of people that were like, who the hell in the world is this guy? No one knew who I was. They didn't have any reason to know who I was. And I think a lot of people were caught pretty off guard. So that helped me, though. It put a little chip on my shoulder. I remember reading some tweets and some different stuff on social media that were kind of saying what in the heck are they thinking. And so I remember that really motivated me. But everyone at Florida was amazing. I remember I spoke to Matt Every, who I grew up playing golf with. We were pretty close to the same age. He sent me a awesome message and text just saying that he'd be super supportive, and if I ever needed any help, he'd be there. And then that's just continued. Gary Koch, you go down the list, Chris DeMarco, It's just been unbelievable. All these guys who have come back, and the biggest one, he's currently on our website right now, is Dudley Hart. And Dudley had a unbelievable PGA Tour career. He's still a PGA Champions Tour member, and Dudley's our volunteer assistant coach, and he spends countless weekends with us working with the guys. He's got one of the best short games I've ever seen, and he's around almost full time to help the guys groove their short games while they're here in college. And his son Ryan actually is signed an NLI and coming to play for us starting in August, and he's turning into a heck of a little player. He actually won a moonlight event last week, so he's really turning into something. But like you said, the alumni has just been absolutely incredible and supportive, and we've really tried to get everyone involved. And we got Billy Horschel, who's out on the PGA Tour. He's a walking Gator. He's always wearing a hat or T-shirt, and he's one of the most passionate guys you've ever seen when it comes to the Florida Gators. So I've been really, really lucky to be a small part of it, and hopefully we're going to give these guys lots to be proud of here in the next few years.
So the
one I forgot,
oh, sure.
Steve Melnick I blanked on that, but Steve has just been incredible to me. Mr. Melnick and his family are just the best people, and he's been super supportive and gone out of his way to do a lot of special stuff for us. So I'd never want to leave him out. He's an absolute legend.
Absolutely. One of the you've had all these great things at the University of Florida, these fantastic teams, players, and a lot of success. But obviously the reality of the coronavirus that has occurred put an end to the NCAA season, put an end to your season. And I have to ask, how do you talk to your team about that? How did you communicate that to your team when everything was happening?
Well, it's different these days, because sometimes I feel like our guys are more informed than we are because of social media. So I don't think there was like one day where I had more information than everyone else and knew something that they didn't. I think the guys kind of saw the writing on the wall happening slowly but surely. I think when the NBA came down and suspended their season, that was kind of like the moment, like, oh crap, like this is not good.
Just a matter of time.
Happening. Yeah. And Blake Dyer and John Axelson, they're the two that it really breaks my heart for. Blake's been here for 5 years. He was a 5th-year senior. He's battled his entire career to get in the lineup. His entire career, he's never had a clear path in the lineup. And he had 2 top 5s over the Christmas break in the New Year's Invitational in the Orlando Am. And he came right in and played good. And he was in our lineup from the CBest, had his best ever college finish at the Gator, and played unbelievable in Las Vegas, 2 weeks ago in our last event. And he was just hitting his stride, and been working with Jeff Smith, who's an unbelievable coach. And Blake's just sacrificed so much to get to this point and to finally start being, a contributor on the road. And for him to have to see it end like this is just heartbreaking and unfair. But and the other one's John Axelson. I think John's missed 2 events his entire career. One was for the World Am last year when John and the Hogard brothers won the World Am for Denmark. And the other one was the Nike Collegiate 2 years ago. John walked in my office and said, "Look, coach, I'm not playing good enough, and I don't think I deserve to go to the tournament." It was unbelievable when he said that. And the next week he actually finished, I think he finished 2nd or 3rd at Isleworth. So he knew something we didn't know. But John just poured his heart and soul into our program. He's an amazing young man. He's like a little brother to me, and we spent a ton of time together on the road. And John was always really interesting because he rarely just took what you said and ran with it. He questioned you a lot, and he wanted to know why. And he made me such a better coach spending 3 years with him, because if I ever said something to John, I better be prepared to have a long, drawn out conversation, because he wasn't just gonna take it at face value. So he's turning pro after his junior year, and he has the prettiest golf swing I've ever seen, and he is going to make a lot of money playing golf.
Well, we'll need to keep an eye on those guys. We've talked a lot about your coaching, but let's at least give you a little bit of pub here as the 2017 Florida Open champion. You still can golf your own ball. I'm not going to walk you through the entire tournament. You picked up that win at Black Diamond Ranch, but let's see. Do your players know who their coach is? That he's the Florida Open champion in 2017. What was that like when you come back to campus with a trophy and a check, saying, "Yeah, guys, I still know what I'm doing."
Yeah, that team. I was really close with a bunch of the guys on our 2017 team, and they were very excited and pumped for me when I won that. All my guys know. I'm too competitive. My competitiveness probably gets the best of me sometimes, but I can't give it up, and I don't get to practice as much as I used to, but I get to watch a lot, and I get to learn from some of the best players in the world that are on our team on a daily basis. So that's the one thing I learned, I think, more than ever from coaching, is you can just sit back and watch some of the best players in the world and see what they do well, see what they could do better, and that makes you a better golfer on your own. You don't just have to be out on the range or the short game area working on it. You can learn so much in this game from watching. And that's what I've done. I got to Florida and got to spend a lot of time with Sam Horsfield and Andy Zhang and Alejandro Tosti and John Axelson and now Ricky Castillo. It's learning from these guys. It makes it easy. And I've never lost the competitiveness. We have a great strength and conditioning program here, so I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, and my body feels better than it's ever has. So there's no reason why I should slow down, and hopefully with golf going forward, if everything comes back to normal, that I can get in the mix in another Florida Open. I'd love to try and do it again.
Yeah. You mentioned some names there. I didn't want to skip over some of the questions I have about recruiting. You pick up Sam Horsfield, who just was a world beater at Florida, and then gosh, he's playing the European Tour, or he's I know he's originally from England. I know he's got that close relationship with Poulter, but can you just briefly walk me through kind of something you look for when you're recruiting a player?
Yeah. So Sam was super easy. John Handrigan and Buddy Alexander had done all the hard work, and Sam was already committed to the University of Florida when I got the job. And I just literally had to convince Sam and his family that I was the right guy. And even though Buddy wasn't going to be here, that I was still in good hands. And I remember literally the first day I was allowed to go see him. It was July 1st. I don't know what that was, 2014, I guess. I drove up to Orlando and I had a meeting with Sam and his parents and his coach, Jason Bell. And man, we hit it off immediately. And I knew that the family was going to be a lifelong friend, and that I was going to have an unbelievable relationship with Sam. And I'm still so close with him. We talk on a weekly basis. He's all over the world now, but we catch up constantly and talk about our addiction to Nike shoes, but that's another story. But Sam was the easy one. Andy was a little more difficult. I think he had the pick of the litter, whichever school he wanted to go to. I think he was being offered a scholarship too, and I had some convincing to do there. I spent a lot of nights on the phone with Andy, trying to make sure he realized that Florida was the best place for him. And that's another one. I am so grateful for the relationship I have with him. It's still really strong, and we talk all the time, and he's a huge supporter of the program. And he came here and he was an SEC champion, and that's the opportunity you have at Florida. You got a chance to play under the bright lights and a chance to be in the middle of the biggest action of college golf. And Andy took full advantage of it. And so we just, I think you to come to Florida, you've obviously got to play at a certain level. You got to be a really good player. And then we just really try to protect our culture. We have an unbelievably hardworking group who respects each other and pushes each other and motivates each other in a positive way. And it's fun to be around. And we're seeing stories like Blake Dyer, who are, they take longer to develop, but it's happening. And I'm really proud of his story as much as I am of Sam making the European Tour right out of school, or Gordon Neal making the Web.com finals right out of school last year. There's Alejandro Tosti won on the PGA Tour Latino America last year. So there's so many great things happening with our alumni here, but our culture comes first and our family comes first, and all our guys know that.
Well, what else should we talk about?
You know what? I'd love to talk about Handrigan for a second.
Sure. You got a good Handrigan story?
I think the best Handrigan story I have is, so I get the job. Jeremy Foley calls me and tells me I've got it. John's from Canada, so we knew of each other, but we weren't friends at the time. And I didn't know what to do. This is my first head coaching job, and I don't know if John's the right guy to be the assistant or someone else. And I'm talking to a bunch of different people. I'm getting calls of people that are interested in coming to work with me. And
you've probably never had to hire anyone in your life.
No, absolutely not. I've been begging other people for jobs, let alone ever hiring someone. So I get down here to Gainesville, and I think John had been hearing a million different rumors of, JC's going to hire this guy or this and that. So his life is all in uncertain terms. I think there was some other schools trying to hire him away. And we went to dinner at Ember's Steakhouse, and we sat there for, I don't know, it had to be 3.5 or 4 hours, and just hashed the whole thing out. And I remember leaving there thinking, man, how lucky am I to have this guy? He's just so organized, so dedicated. His wife, Lee, is just amazing. They become some of my wife, Jessica, and I's best friends in the world. And John was just a superstar, and it was evident from day one. And we made a deal, and I think the recruiting that we did together for those 3 years speaks for itself. And he absolutely helped me get this program off the ground and get it going. And look what he's doing at Notre Dame now. They just had the best year in program history for them, and they were the talk of the town after the fall. And zero surprise. This guy's a relentless worker, loves his kids, loves his job, and I'm so happy for him. He's literally one of the best people I've ever met.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed when I spoke with him. That's gonna be really interesting to see that program, and also all the trips those guys take for their practice sessions. That's little annoying, but it was really it was good to uncover. But I was like, come on, man, you can't talk about taking your guys down to Seminole and Augusta National. So you've spoken highly about Coach Knight at UNLV. You've spoken highly about Buddy Alexander, your AD at Florida, your team, former players. Everyone's awesome, but everyone's great. You got great things to say about everyone. Give me an embarrassing story about yourself. I can't just let you give a positive infomercial. Speaking about all the great things in your life. You can't be this clean. There has to be something embarrassing, something funny. We try to embarrass the guests a little bit here. That way the listener can kind of, form a little bit of a connection, say, oh yeah, I've done that bonehead thing too. And the good to know that a guy that's running one of the top D1 programs in the country did that also.
Okay. I don't know why this is so strange that this story came to my head when you just started describing what you wanted to hear, but here you go. This is this super random story from my pro career, but pretty embarrassing to say the least.
There you go.
So first round out it was a tournament in Saskatoon at this casino golf course, great links course, awesome spot, wonderful tournament on the Canadian Tour, and didn't play great the first round, and I think I shot 72 or 73, and the second round I had the best round of my pro career to date. I shot 63 on Friday, and obviously got to be, I think I was in the second last group, and the tournament's really well attended, and there's a the locals love it and support it really well. So there's a bunch of people around the first tee on Saturday when I'm teeing off for my first time in one of the final groups, and I'm nervous and uncomfortable, and so there's this huge group of people, and they announce me, and I get up on the tee, and I got a 3-wood, and I block it right. Okay, no, not that big a deal, but we don't get a safe sign. So I'm thinking, geez, the grass is long down there. I don't want to walk back in front of all these people. I'm going to hit a provisional.
Right.
So I whispered over to the starter, who obviously hadn't had a ton of experience, in golf. But I said, hey, sir, just so you know, I'm going to hit a provisional real quick. And he announces in front of 500 people, excuse me, Mr. Deacon is now going to hit a provisional. And I'm like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
He announced it louder and more vigorously than he did my name in the first place. And I couldn't have been feeling more shame walking off that first tee after I dribbled that provisional down there. So
that's the best. I wasn't expecting that. So how did that provisional? I mean, more nervous over the provisional than any tee shot in your life?
Well, I think I just was so embarrassed. Like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that I didn't even think about the shot. And I think I ended up finishing fourth that week. So I played fine and got over that moment. But that was the most embarrassed I ever was in my professional career, for sure.
That's fantastic. Did you have to play? Did you have to play the provisional?
No, I found my first ball. I didn't even need it. I know.
That's even
How
better.
about that?
That's even better.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I know it's under very odd circumstances, not just in the golf world and collegiately and just everything. So I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me, and hopefully when things get back to normal, we can talk about next year's team and your run for a national championship. But, Coach, thanks for coming on the Back of the Range, and we'll do it again soon.
Pleasure to be on the Back of the Range. You're a good man and love what you're doing for golf, and my pleasure to be on here, and just wishing safety and health for everyone to get through this time and hopefully get back to doing what we all love.
And there you have it. Special thanks to J.C. Deacon, head golf coach at the University of Florida, for joining us in this episode. Don't forget, we have episodes every day this week. Follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Every episode, if you need to get caught up, every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode here at the Back of the Range.